My name is Ella Chen. On my 30th birthday, I was in the back kitchen of a Chinese restaurant in Queens, chopping 100 pounds of onions. With every crisp slice of the knife, the pungent smell pierced my nostrils. Tears mixed with sweat from my temples trickled down my neck, stinging sharply. I stared at the thick calluses on my wrists, hardened like old tree bark from years of clutching dish rags and broom handles, and grinned. Just 3 more months, and Caleb's graduate school tuition would be covered. I could finally breathe easy. The kitchen exhaust fan hummed loudly, the smell of grease and stir-fried chili clinging to my face. My skin, bare of makeup, was shiny with oil, the fine lines around my eyes ingrained with grime that never seemed to wash away. After finishing the onions, I still had to scrub over 20 greasy woks. My hands, soaked in detergent, turned pale and wrinkled. The grease embedded under my nails required a steel wool pad to scrape out, sometimes breaking the skin. A splash of salty water would then send a sharp, searing pain through the cuts. The boss always said, "Ella is quick and efficient," but no one knew that every night, I soaked my swollen, bun-like feet in ice water, only to get up again at 4 a.m. the next day. I couldn't be late for my cleaning job at the Manhattan office building. A minute's lateness meant a $5 fine, enough for 2 days' worth of instant noodles. Caleb is my only brother, 7 years younger than me. When our parents died in a car accident in Flushing 10 years ago, he was still in high school, and I had just received my community college acceptance letter. The day after the funeral, I withdrew from college, packed my bags, and moved into a shared apartment in Brooklyn, a 6-square-meter partitioned room where turning around was a struggle. The space under the bed was crammed with junk, and the single window faced a brick wall, forcing me to use a desk lamp even during the day. I found a job as a dishwasher at Golden Happiness Restaurant, in Chinatown, earning $8 an hour, working 12-hour shifts. At the end of each month, I would wire 80% of my pay to Caleb's account. The money left after paying the $350 rent and buying discounted instant noodles went into a rusty old metal box under my bed, a relic from our parents, containing all my hopes. "Sis, you don't have to push yourself so hard," Caleb said during his first visit to New York, frowning as he stood in my tiny room. He was wearing the limited edition Nike sneakers I had bought with half a month's salary, carrying the latest Apple laptop bag, dressed in trendy brand-name sweatshirts whose prices I couldn't even bear to look at. His face had the clean, fresh look of a 17-year-old, even his fingernails spotless. I shoved the last 2 tea eggs into his hands, eggs I had secretly brought from the restaurant kitchen, unable to bring myself to eat them, and said with a smile, "You're going to be the first college graduate in our family, destined for Wall Street. A little hardship is nothing for me." After seeing him off at the bus station, watching him board the coach to Boston, I immediately headed to the Flushing night market. I found a part-time job selling bubble tea, earning an extra $40 each night. New York winter nights were bitterly cold, the wind cutting like knives against my face. Bundled in 2 faded, threadbare old down jackets, the collars frayed, I still couldn't keep the chill out. My hands and feet grew numb, my fingers so stiff I could barely count change, yet I couldn't bring myself to buy a hot drink. A $5 bubble tea would buy me 2 packs of instant noodles. Huddled in a corner of the stall, I watched the fashionably dressed young people laughing and chatting, holding warm drinks and snacks, but my heart felt sweet. The money in the metal box was growing thicker day by day, and Caleb could live a little better. Caleb's monthly allowance rose from $800 to $1,200, then to $1,500. He said Harvard textbooks were too expensive, over $200 each, that club activities required funds for custom suits, that all his classmates had laptops and he couldn't fall behind. He even said the university gym membership cost $1,000 because you need a good image to get into investment banking. I never once said no, even though I had never set foot in a gym myself. My only exercise was the hour-long walk to and from work, to save $2 on subway fare. But I later found out just how glamorous Caleb's life at Harvard really was. His social media feeds, which never featured me, were filled with photos of sunny beach vacations, exquisite meals at high-end restaurants, and joyrides in sports cars with friends. With the money I sent, he bought the latest phones and watches, swapped limited edition sneakers every month, and even rented a standalone villa with a pool and garden in the Boston suburbs with friends, for $3,000 a month, 3 months of my wages. When he video called me saying, "Sis, I'm working at the library," the backdrop was a luxurious living room, with expensive wine and cigars on the coffee table. He even had a white girlfriend, gifting her a designer bag that cost $4,000, a year of my savings, while the cashmere sweater I wore was an old, pilled hand-me-down from him. Caleb did well. After his undergraduate degree, he was accepted into Stanford Business School. He called me, his voice brimming with excitement, "Sis, once I graduate, I'll get you an apartment with a balcony overlooking Central Park. You'll never have to wash dishes or clean toilets again." I cried on the other end of the line, not from self-pity, but from pride. To cover his tuition, I took a higher-paying job, cleaning offices in Manhattan, starting at 4 a.m., finishing at noon, then working a restaurant shift until 10 p.m. I slept only 4 hours a night. Breakfast was a discounted convenience store sandwich, lunch was leftover rice from the restaurant with pickles. I lost 15 pounds, my cheekbones protruding, eyes sunken. But seeing the money in the metal box grow, it all felt worth it. Last summer, Caleb returned to New York after graduation to look for a job. He was taller, a bit heavier, dressed in a custom-tailored suit, an Armani tie, a Rolex gleaming on his wrist, every inch the elite. He said he'd found a job as an investment advisor, working for a Jewish man named Goldberg who thought highly of him. "Sis, I'm earning now. It's my turn to take care of you," he said, buying me a cashmere sweater. I later found out it was a discounted item, just over $100, while the suit he wore cost $2,000. Sitting in my still cramped apartment, he wrinkled his nose in distaste and said, "Sis, this place is so shabby. Once I start making money, I'll get you a bigger one right away." Early this year, Caleb came to see me unexpectedly, his face lit with an overly enthusiastic smile. He took my hands, fussing over me with a syrupy sweet concern. "Sis, I've got great news," he said, leaning in, lowering his voice, his eyes burning with an urgent, for your own good, intensity. "Mr. Goldberg is starting a fund, specifically investing in Silicon Valley startups. The internal subscription price is ridiculously low, with a potential 50% return. Think about it, $280,000 invested becomes $560,000 in a year. We could buy an apartment with a balcony in Queens right away. You'd never have to struggle like this again." He waved a thick English language contract, his finger tracing the embossed logo. "Sis, I've already invested all my savings and even borrowed $500,000 from friends. This opportunity is too good to miss, and you were the first person I thought of. Think about it, after all these years of hardship, you deserve to enjoy life." I hesitated. That money was my lifeline, earned from countless dishes washed, countless offices cleaned, countless sleepless nights. But Caleb gripped my hand, his eyes as sincere as when he was a boy begging me for ice cream. "Sis, don't you trust me? I'm your own brother. Would I ever cheat you? Mr. Goldberg is a big name on Wall Street. So many people are scrambling to work with him. It's only because he trusts me that I got this internal allocation." Seeing my continued hesitation, he thumped his chest confidently. "I've reviewed the contract for you, all the terms are solid. The returns are legally guaranteed. Don't worry about not understanding English, I'll handle everything for you. The money will go straight to your account. Just imagine, us siblings putting down roots in New York, looking out for each other. Wouldn't that be great?" He even promised that once we made money, he'd take me on a trip to California, to see Hollywood, visit Disneyland. "Sis, you've never been on a proper vacation. This time, I'll cover everything, first-class flights, 5-star hotels. He even brought Mr. Goldberg to meet me. Goldberg was a gray-haired old man with gold-rimmed glasses, a gentle manner, and an obviously expensive suit. In halting Chinese, he said, "Miss Chen, Caleb is an exceptional young man. I trust him completely. This fund opportunity is very rare. I'm only offering it to close associates. Rest assured, your money is safe with me. I guarantee it with my reputation." He showed me his business card, emblazoned with impressive titles like Senior Wall Street Investor and Advisor to multiple listed companies, along with a Manhattan Midtown office address and phone number. My defenses crumbled completely. The next day, I withdrew my entire life savings, all $280,000, from the metal box under my bed. The stack of cash, wrapped in 3 layers of newspaper, was clutched tightly against my chest all the way to the bank, my palms sweating. I transferred the money to the account Caleb provided. He wrote me a receipt stating, "Received $280,000 investment from Ella Chen. Principal and interest of $560,000 to be returned in 1 year, signed by both Caleb and Goldberg, complete with thumbprints." After the transfer, I felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Caleb called me frequently, reporting the fund's smooth progress. "We've already invested in 3 AI companies, their valuation has tripled," Mr. Goldberg praised my sharp eye. He occasionally sent photos of the office, a spacious, bright workspace with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Manhattan skyline. He said dividends would start in a few months and urged me to start looking at apartment layouts. "Sis, do you prefer south-facing or west-facing?" "I think south is better, more sunlight." I began to imagine a different life, no more 4 a.m. wake-ups, no more kowtowing to bosses, a place of my own, proper sleep, weekend strolls in Central Park like everyone else, maybe even resuming those community college courses. But 3 months ago, Caleb suddenly vanished. His phone was disconnected, WeChat messages went unanswered. I went to his apartment. The landlord said he'd moved out a month earlier, leaving no forwarding address, having paid his rent in cash. Frantic, I went to the address on Goldberg's business card, only to find it was a temporarily rented office space, long since relet. The new tenant said, the previous people only rented for a month. It was a mess when they moved out. I filed a report at the police station. The officer glanced at the contract and receipt, shrugged, and said, "This is an investment dispute, not fraud," suggesting I get a lawyer. Receipt in hand, I found a Chinese-speaking lawyer. After examining the documents, his expression turned grim. "Ella, you've been scammed. This contract is forged, the name Goldberg is fake, the so-called fund doesn't exist." I stood frozen, unable to speak for a long moment, a buzzing filling my ears like a swarm of bees. The lawyer continued, "Caleb was likely in on it. He knew you had savings and trusted him absolutely, so he conspired with an outsider to set this up. Look, the receiving account was his personal account, the signature is his handwriting, it's all evidence." "Impossible!" I screamed, my voice hoarse. "Caleb is my brother. I raised him for 12 years. He wouldn't cheat me." I rushed out of the law office and wandered aimlessly through New York streets. The June sun was blazing, but I felt icy cold, as if plunged into a freezer. I remembered every detail of the past 12 years, the education I gave up for him, my worn-out hands, shivering in the winter night market, scrimping and saving, unable to afford a $50 moisturizer, while he squandered my money. Tears streamed down my face unchecked. Passers-by stared, but I didn't care. I just wanted to hide. I began searching for Caleb obsessively. I called all his classmates and friends, went to every place he might be, the Stanford New York Alumni Association, bars he'd mentioned, even his old campus in Boston. But he had vanished without a trace. Until last week, I received an anonymous email from a strange address. It contained just one photo and one sentence. The photo showed Caleb and Goldberg on a luxury yacht, laughing heartily. Caleb was wearing a new Patek Philippe watch, arm around a blonde in a bikini, against a backdrop of blue sea and sky. The sentence read, "Your paltry sum barely covered one part for our yacht." I collapsed to the floor, feeling my whole world shatter. 12 years of blood and sweat, $280,000, swindled by the brother I cherished most. I had given him everything, and in return, he betrayed me in the cruelest way. That night, I pulled out the metal box from under the bed. It was empty, save for a layer of dust. I held the box and cried all night, until my voice was gone and my tears dried up, a part of me dying inside. But at daybreak, I wiped my tears, my gaze hardening with resolve. I couldn't let this go. He had to pay for what he did. I went back to the lawyer, gathering all the evidence, transfer records, the receipt, photos of Caleb's lavish lifestyle from social media, the anonymous email photo, even my old pay stubs and remittance records proving the $280,000 was my life savings. The lawyer explained that while the police initially called it an investment dispute, if we could prove Caleb and Goldberg had intentionally fabricated facts to illegally obtain the money, it could be classified as fraud. I also remembered Caleb mentioning he'd used my money to buy a used Porsche to keep up appearances, and an apartment in Miami. The lawyer helped me file for asset preservation. Tracing the bank records, we found Caleb had transferred my $280,000 to Goldberg's overseas account, which was then funneled back into Caleb's account in installments to buy the luxury car, property, and high-end goods. We also discovered Goldberg wasn't a Wall Street investor but a habitual fraudster with multiple prior convictions. Caleb had known him all along, they were partners. The lawyer submitted this evidence to the FBI. After a 3-month investigation, police arrested Caleb and Goldberg in Miami. At the trial, I sat in the gallery, watching Caleb in an orange jumpsuit, hair disheveled, a far cry from his elite persona. When he saw me, his eyes darted away, unable to meet my gaze. The evidence was overwhelming. Caleb was convicted of fraud and sentenced to 8 years in prison. Goldberg, for multiple counts of fraud, received 12 years. The court also ordered Caleb to repay my $280,000. His Porsche and Miami apartment were seized and auctioned, the proceeds returned to me. The day I received the compensation, I felt no overwhelming excitement, just a quiet calm as I deposited the money into the bank. I didn't move back to the 6-square-meter partitioned room. Instead, I rented a 1-bedroom apartment with a balcony. It wasn't huge, but it was filled with sunlight, overlooking a Brooklyn street. I re-enrolled in community college, this time for accounting. I attend classes in the morning and work part-time as a bookkeeper at a Chinese company in the afternoons. No more back-breaking manual labor. Last month, I visited Caleb in prison. Through the thick glass, his eyes red-rimmed, he told me he was sorry, that he'd been blinded by vanity, seeing his classmates' lavish lives and wanting quick success, to prove he was better, which led him astray. He said he regretted it every day, missing the times we relied on each other in our small Flushing home. I listened quietly, neither crying nor scolding him. I told him, "Caleb, I raised you for 12 years, not so you could cheat me, but hoping you'd become an honest, good person. I got the money back. But the bond between us as siblings ended the moment you deceived me." Walking out of the prison, the sun felt warm on my skin. I thought of those years in Brooklyn, the tiny partitioned room, the metal box under the bed, the tears while chopping onions, the bitter cold of the night market. Those days were hard, but they were filled with hope. Caleb, he had everything my blood and sweat provided, but he lost himself in desire, ultimately destroying his own life. New York's nights remain dazzlingly bright. Now, finally, that brilliance has a place for me. I've learned that family is the most precious thing in the world, but it isn't unconditional indulgence, nor an excuse for betrayal. Human greed and vanity can destroy the closest bonds, but they can also force one to rise from the ashes, reborn. I was once a speck of dust cast aside, struggling in a cold city. But now, tempered by fire, I've found my own light. Perhaps each of us encounters a money shredder in life, something that consumes your efforts and devours your trust. What matters is not letting it break you. We must learn to protect ourselves, to fight back, and, most importantly, to rebuild our lives from the ruins. Because true happiness never comes from others, it's built with our own hands and sustained by inner strength. My Brooklyn dream was shattered by the one closest to me. But now, with my own strength, I'm piecing together a new, more complete, and more resilient dream.